cold days like today, what should I wear before heading out to go skiing?
Well, I think clothing is very important to being happy on the mountain. Really, you want to dress in layers. That's the most important thing. I think on the base layer, you want to have next to your skin light wicking materials that keep moisture away from you. Polypro is probably the most popular item. You can buy it in different weights: lightweight, medium weight, heavyweight. And the advantage of that is you can kind of gauge it to how cold it's going to be. On a hot day, you'll do lightweight. If it's Arctic, you might want the heavyweight. Next, you want a second base layer. I usually wear something that's like a vest or a sweater. Again, it's usually made out of wicking material. The thing not to forget is you want to keep the moisture from the outside getting in. So a waterproof layer that also is usually windproof. That'll be very important. Multiple layers that keep moisture away from your body, from the inside out, wicking and drying, and from the outside in.
How should I warm up before I go out for day skiing?
And before I go skiing, what can I do to make my legs stronger?
I'd like to know how to make my knees stronger for skiing.
What exercises can I do to prepare winter sports?
Well, I think that's a good question. In preparing for skiing, there's a number of things that you want to do, and there's really 4 different areas that you want to focus on. The first is you want to have good cardiovascular fitness. The second is you want to have good strength. The third is flexibility. And then the fourth is you need good balance. So to start with all those, really, you shouldn't just show up at the mountain, go to the top, and expect that you're going to do well. You're going to get worn out. Skiing is a very safe sport, but injuries can occur, particularly if you get tired. So the first thing to do is get yourself in reasonable shape. That could be riding a bike, that could be getting on a treadmill, that could be hiking during the off season. All those things are very, very effective. In terms of strengthening, the real core muscles that you want to work on are your quadriceps and your glutes. Other muscles that are important are your core, your calves, particularly if you're a snowboarder, but simple things like climbing a mountain, riding a bike. Wall sits are a good exercise, and anybody that skis knows that this is just torture, where you kind of sit with your back against the wall, stand there as long as you can and let your quads scream at you. Flexibility, well, you're actually talking to the wrong guy about flexibility. I'm about as unflexible as they come, but I do know better. And I think it's very important. If you think about it, you come to a ski area, you sit in the car for an hour, you wait in line, to get your ticket, then you go on the lift. You're pretty stiff by the time you get to the top. So it's really kind of important to warm up. So walking, jogging in place, jumping jacks, I think quad stretching, hamstring stretching, all those things, just before you put those skis on and head down the mountain. So, and then in terms of balance, there are things that you can do for balance. You can stand on one leg, you can do a squat on one leg, and then, of course, nothing is better than actually skiing to get your balance.
So how do I know if my helmet fits right?
So regarding your helmet, I think wearing a helmet is important, particularly for young kids. Don't be swayed by all the, there's no proof, all that. I think wearing a helmet does prevent injuries, or at least lowers the severity of injuries. So a couple of things. If you're wearing your helmet and you got the worst headache of your entire life, I would say your helmet's probably a little small. If you're wearing your helmet and you can't really see anything, I'd say your helmet's probably a little big. If it's going back and forth, it's really not doing much. So it needs to fit snug, needs to not give you a headache. People often say that if you put one finger under the chin strap, then it's usually of appropriate fit. So again, in terms of the helmet, don't be afraid about fashion, that kind of thing. Look at me, I look like I'm gonna get a shot out of a cannon at the circus, but this is the only helmet that fits my unusually large head. And again, as I said, I think wearing a helmet is very important.
What can I pack for my kids to prepare for a day of skiing?
Making your kids happy on the slope, that's an important thing. That's very important for their happiness, and even more importantly, your happiness. So when you bring your kids to the mountain, a couple things to remember. One, you want to pack some items that are likely to get wet. Believe it or not, kids' feet get wet all the time. So an extra pair of socks, so that when usually kids are playing around in the lodge by the fire and they start sweating, then they go outside, and it's nothing worse than warm, sweaty feet that then get cold. So having a dry pair of socks, maybe a dry pair of gloves, very important. The other thing that's very important is snacks. Kids need to eat something, probably every couple of hours, particularly when they're exercising. This will keep them happy. The other thing that I find the kids don't complain about, but chapstick, because they don't complain until it's too late, until they have those big craters on their lips. The other thing is sunscreen. Kids get all the sun and nobody pays any attention because they're not complaining. So you do want to put adequate sunscreen. Remember, the sun reflects off the snow. So it's very important to do those two things.
Why is it important to drink water while snowboarding or skiing?
Well, how much water do I need to put in my system?
Well, when you're exercising, I think it's very important to stay hydrated. Often people get up in the morning, they drink lots of coffee, and as you know, caffeine's a little bit dehydrating, so you come to the mountain, you're a little depleted already. I find it's a good practice to have a bottle of water or Gatorade or some such liquid before you go out. Then as a general rule, you want to drink about 12 ounces per hour of exercise. In the winter, it's a little harder to know that you're getting dehydrated because it's cold out, there's no sun beating down on you, you're not sweating as much, you don't get as thirsty, but you are in fact getting dehydrated. So as I said, a good rule of thumb is about 12 ounces of fluid about every hour. A little more if you're in altitude, you're skiing bumps, you're skiing very aggressively, maybe a little less if you're on the magic carpet.
When I ski, my toes get numb. What can I do to fix that?
Cold or numb toes is also a problem with skiing. The most important part of that is making sure your boots fit. Boots that are too tight, they're going to cut off the circulation, you're going to get very cold feet, you might even get numb feet. So go to a ski shop, have them fit you. The other thing that's important is you need to, when you try on those boots, have the socks that you're likely to wear. So just putting on a big, heavy, thick pair of socks and jamming them into that boot, that may seem like a great idea because you're going to be nice and warm, but actually you're shooting yourself in the foot, so to speak.